Okay, hi guys. This will probably be a short one. So, a while ago, I don't remember when, I tried to make a video about uh, the rules Baroque by Dadi and Piombo. And I think when I tried that first playthrough, I didn't, sit down and read through the rules carefully enough. So I gave it another try. Um, and my opinion overall is still kind of mixed, I have to say. Um, I think now that I played through a little bit, so I did some movement and shooting. Um, it's the rules actually play just fine. I don't think there's a big problem with that. The main issue that I'm having is playing it alone. The wording in the rule book is still a little awkward. Now it's written by some Italians and translated into English, and I know how hard translation is myself, so I don't, I'm not really trying to be harsh, but just the way the rules are worded is a little awkward. But the concepts that they're trying to express are just fine actually. So Baroque, if you've never played it or looked at it, it's a big battle game, mainly designed for 28 millimeter. And it's for like late 16th and 17th century. So I'm playing with my 15s, and the main kind of feature that I do really like about it is, for one, when you every turn you roll off to see which side has the initiative. So one side is the active, and then the other side is inactive, but the other player isn't really inactive, so you can do reactions to any of your opponent's moves, which is nice. I like that. And you also activate like one unit at a time, and you can do the actions of that unit in any order. So you can fire and then advance, or you can advance and then fire. The only thing is that like the charges and melee is handled at the end. But like I said, you can respond. So if your cavalry charges, then you can counter charge, or you can reaction fire. So what I did is I set up I have enough Transylvanians almost to have a small Hungarian force. So I set up a scenario like a border clash between some Transylvanians and Ottomans, maybe like during the Long Turkish War period when they were fighting. And I did go through a couple combats. So these Ottoman cavalry, so I used the Delhi profile in the rules. They advanced, and then I counted these Hydrix as dragoons. I'll get to the army lists in a minute, because that's another area where I think I could improve a little bit. So they advanced and fired. And then the other units, there wasn't much activity, other than I was just trying to get a hang of the rules. I will say, for the frontages and the basing, it's really flexible. In the first video, I didn't quite get the measurements, so you have variable measurements depending on the frontage. But now that I have my 15s on kind of a more standardized base size, it makes more sense. So my units here are we on metric? Yeah. So my infantry units are, let's see if I can show that, are just about 12 centimeters. And then you do half the frontage as one Baroque unit, so 6 centimeters. So not that complicated. So that was fine. And then the depth, I don't think, is actually that big of a deal for playing. And the number of figures in the base is also not really, they in the rule book it says it's not a problem. Um, you just have to have uh, the frontage is really what matters. Basically, that's the point. So that's pretty flexible, and I appreciate that part of it. And I set up just two I thought they would be two kind of basic forces. I didn't want to, because my table is a little small even for 15, so I didn't want to put a bunch of cavalry and then not have them be able to move. So I kind of came up with what I thought would be like a plausible expeditionary kind of force for both sides. So I had a pike and musket unit of sicklers. I used some Polish cavalry as to stand in as Hungarian hussars, but they were mostly just to be the general's kind of guard, and then two units of haiduks, and then I had the actual well, these are just Hungarian style infantry that could be used for Polish or Hungarian armies in the early modern period, but and then the actual haiduks and I used as dragoons, and then the Seckler mounted handgunners I also just used as another dragoon unit. So I guess I'll give an example of just where I think the wording in the rule book can be a little hard to parse, or it was for me. Let me go to I'll go to the shooting section. Okay, so the shooting is relatively straightforward. So each unit has what's called a VBU, which is their kind of general unit. So that's the number of dice you roll when taking an action. So like for Janissaries, I think it's 4. So you roll 4 dice plus, and then you add or subtract additional dice based on other conditions. But this is where the wording, I think, can be a little confusing. Maybe I'm wrong, but so cohesion test and losses. This is what I was kind of struggling with while I was playing. Whenever a unit takes damage, it has to make a cohesion test. The test is used to determine any permanent losses. In each case, the unit is disordered after the test, even if this was passed. In order to pass the test and not receive permanent losses, you must roll the same or less with 1d6 than the critical number. This is the value of the VBU. So it was the number I just mentioned, so that would be like 4 for the Janissaries. There was a +1 modifier to the critical number if a commander of whatever level is attached to the unit, and a -1 if the unit is in disorder. If the cohesion test is the result of being fired at, a modifier of +1 is applied if the shot comes from short distance, or +2 comes from long distance or extreme range. The critical number can never be less than 1. Example, a unit with a VBU equals 3 and disorder suffers 3 damage. The critical number in this case is 1 and not -1. With a roll of 1, the test is always passed, and with a roll of 6, the test is always failed. In the event of a test failure, the unit takes 1 permanent deduction to its VBU for every point rolled over the critical number. Where the critical number is 6 or higher, the test failure can only occur with the roll of a 6. With a 6, test is always failed. In this case, the loss on a VBU is 1. If the VBU of the unit is reduced to 0 or less, the unit routs and is immediately removed from the table. Example, a unit of Royalist pike and musket with VBU of 6 in disorder receives from shooting 3 hits. Since the shooting took place between 1 and 2 BU, then in short distance the critical number is 4. So 6 VBU, -1 they're disordered, -3 damage, +1 for distance. A 5 is rolled, the test has been failed by 1, and the unit takes 1 permanent loss. Had the Royalist player rolled a 6, then it would have lost 2. To pass the test, the unit had to roll a 4 or less. Okay, um, like I said, maybe this is just me, but I find the wording just kind of confusing, even though the concept is not like that complicated, and it's actually quite easy. So your morale number is whatever your VBU is for, and then you add or subtract based on these other conditions, um, and then you have to roll under that number. Um, so like it just explained in the example. Um, Again, the concept is fine. That's not a problem. I think it plays just fine. Just the wording is kind of confusing. And I haven't seen this set of rules played too much on YouTube. There is one guy, Check Your Leader TV, who did do a good job explaining the rules, and I've watched that video a few times. But it's still kind of hard solo gaming, to figure it out, because when you're playing with other people or in a club, and you have more eyes on it, that always helps. Uh, so I guess that's my main issue. It's not the rules, it's just the kind of wording is confusing and a little non-intuitive. The other thing that I'll mention is the use of a lot of acronyms, like VBU. They are explained in the book, but they're a little, they're a little not intuitive. You have to read very carefully, I think, or I had to. I know some people are more detail-minded. They can be good at that. So, and then the last thing I will say, and this is not really a huge deal, it's just the army lists are a little restrictive, I think. So I tried with the Turkish list, and the and the and the Polish list to represent the Hungarians. That was kind of just to try and play the rules. Now it's the army lists and also kind of the identity of the game. Reading the rules, sometimes it's like not fully clear if they want like a tournament game, or if this is because there's like points, and then there's rules for like placing the terrain. You can always just kind of disregard that stuff and play through anyway. But I was trying to give it a better shot this time. In the army lists for both the Poles and the Ottomans, the unit choices are a little off. It says it's supposed to be 1645 to 1700, and some of the units are just fine, but I don't understand. Kind of, there's a number restriction on some of them. So, for the Ottomans, you have 1 to 2 Kapakulu Spahi. That kind of makes sense. You wanted to be more restricted. 1 to 4 Janissaries, 0 to 2 Slav and Anatolic skirmishers with muskets. If I was going to revise this list, I would make that a lot bigger actually for this period, but this is a little more of a just not really a problem with the game mechanics. This is something that I think you could correct, and there's plenty of other lists. The other thing is the Haijuks in the Polish list are like 0 to 1. And then you have just regular pike and musket units. Again, I think this is not like a serious problem. It's just something I noticed while I was playing, and you could definitely kind of work around that. But anyway, that's kind of the my experience giving Baroque another try. Like I said, I think after reading through more carefully and playing, playing a few moves through, um, the mechanics are fine, and and the movement I understand now. Just the wording and the rules, it takes several times to kind of get it, I think. Yeah. And the last thing is, I just want to show, this is unrelated to Baroque, but I did, this is the game, this is the battle mat I made just with some felt fabric from Hobby Lobby and green spray paint. And then those are some of the trees I bought. And I think it turned out okay. So yeah. All right. Thanks for watching this, guys. If you, I may try to do another playthrough of this. But in terms of my kind of the pike and shot period rules that I've played on the channel over the last few years, I'm still not comfortable enough with this one to kind of make it a regular in my rotation, so to speak. But I think it's fine. It's just a little more technical than the other rules, and it just takes more practice to get it. And then the only other thing is like I said, I think the army lists, I could come up with some new ones to try that out. Okay, all right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.